Hello, everybody. It's Adele Frizzell here and
Tiffany here.
All right, so let's talk about our rapid fat loss experiment and how that's going. It ended yesterday. It was just a 3-week experiment. Mm-hmm. In some ways, I was really looking forward to it being over, but then another part of me is really looking forward to doing another round. How about you, Tiffany?
Well, honestly, I'm pretty close to my overall goal right now. So I don't know that I will do another round. I think I might, but I don't have a lot left to lose. I'm pretty muscular. So I think that I'm actually going to focus on trying to see how high I can get my calories at this point. So kind of like a reverse diet. I want to see how high I can get my calories without weight gain. So maybe that'll be 1,700 calories. Maybe it'll be 2,000 calories. And I really want to transition to doing more intense strength training. Try to build up some muscle mass and stuff. And it's a little more difficult to do that on a lower calorie protocol. But I feel like overall, it was a really good experiment. I'm very happy with the progress that I made over the last 3 weeks. And I was also very happy to have toast this morning.
Yeah. I haven't really eaten much yet because I had half a protein bar. I had a few bites of peaches. I had a latte this morning, which was really nice. I'm waiting to eat some bread. I made some olive tapenade bread. And so that has been baked and it's cooling, and I'm going to go have that after this call. But yeah, that's kind of my treat I've been looking forward to.
Awesome.
So that's one thing. Like, I couldn't do keto. I love bread and carbs.
Yeah. I think that after about 3 weeks at that point, you really are like, okay, something's missing from my diet. Like, because hunger wise, energy wise, I felt like I could have kept going. Like I could have, like my hunger was not overwhelming. It was more of, I wanted to eat real pasta and I wanted to eat bread, but making those fit while you're in the transformer program or while you're on this protocol it's difficult. Can you do it? Yes. But at the end of the day, that might end up spiking your hunger because most of your carbs are gone in one meal. And now you're trying to figure out, okay, well, how can I eat only fat and protein for the rest of the day? So it's not realistic. I did rely on Miracle Noodles a lot, which, got me through, which was great because, we eat a lot of pasta at my house. So anytime we had a pasta meal, my family would have real pasta and I would have Miracle Noodles. Or if they had rice, I would have, the Miracle Rice. Yeah. So I was able to eat meals with my family the entire 3 weeks.
That's great.
Which was really nice. Awesome. Yep. I did not go over my calories very often. Honestly, I was looking through my diary and everything, and most days I was probably right at or right under my calories. Mm-hmm. I had that one day where I went over and I knew that I went over. And then I had another day where I kind of estimated, didn't really track, but I knew based on what I ate that I didn't go over, or if I did, it wasn't by a lot. Mm-hmm. I actually, yesterday, the last day of the program, like I wasn't really hungry at all. I only ate twice yesterday. And then it was like, okay, well, I should probably eat more, but now it's bedtime. So I'm like,
Yeah, that's amazing. So did you choose not to eat before bed, or what did you choose?
I ended up not eating because I was pretty close to my protein goal. And I was like, it's the last night and tomorrow we'll see what happens. Yeah. And honestly, I want to say that I've eaten just over 600 calories today. I had my normal breakfast. Yeah, my normal breakfast that I had the entire P2, or basically P2, with the exception of I had toast and butter with it. Like I still had my egg whites with my veggies in it because that's something that I normally eat anyway. Yeah. I just really wanted that toast as well.
Nice. Well, that's a good way to like balance it out because you didn't go overboard. You just kind of ate the same way, but you added some toast. Boom. Yeah, that's great. That's
something else that I did. Right. And something else that I did is during the protocol, I was eating a lot of reduced fat feta. So
Okay.
I had real like full fat cheese on my eggs this morning too. So that was
Oh,
really good.
nice. Yeah, that's great. Yeah, I think I'll be eating similarly, but I will be having more treats. I'm looking forward to baking this week. So of
Mhm.
course I'm going to have cheesecake and brownies and, pumpkin
Yes.
loaf and all that stuff. But other than that, it'll be limited serving sizes and I'll be eating quite healthy. So, and watching my portions because my issue has never been like, am I eating healthy? Like I didn't eat healthy in my 30s. I ate healthy in my 40s, but I just would overeat. So
Yeah.
for me, portion control is the big thing. So, all right. Well, it's very interesting that you didn't feel that hungry. I didn't feel very hungry either. I mean, there were moments throughout the day where I might have
Mhm.
like a spike in hunger, but then a meal would usually be good. Where my hunger increased was week 2 when I did 5 workouts that week. That's when my calories went from like my goal had been 900 and I was good on that for week 1, but week 2 it went to 1100. On week 3 I noticed I got sloppier with tracking and I wasn't meal planning. And so that's the big thing. Like we tell people, you got to meal plan. And you learn that lesson
Mhm.
too, right? When you weren't meal planning, then you're just kind of hunting around for whatever. And it's not that satiating or satisfying. So week 3, things kind of got sloppier and I averaged like 1140 calories. So my calories were higher than intended. That said, if I did this again, I would still do higher calories. 900 is too low for me and I want to lift weights and train. So I would probably try to stick with about 1100, probably 1000 to 1100. I
Yeah.
lost less than you. I lost 10.2 pounds,
Mhm.
but I was looser with my macros. I ate a bit more and I trained. Like yesterday was a heavy bench session. Had I not had that, I might have been retaining less water today and had a bigger drop on the scale. But I can live with that because I have a
Yeah.
powerlifting competition coming up and I want to train for it. So,
But
yeah.
and I want to point out the fact that it was 3 weeks and you lost over 10 pounds.
Yeah,
You know,
exactly.
that's a lot of progress in 3 weeks,
Mhm.
you know?
Yeah.
So I lost 12 pounds. My lowest weight was on Saturday and the scale was back up slightly today. So on Saturday, I was down 12.2 pounds and today I'm down just 12 pounds. So I gained zero point 0.2 back. But again, normal fluctuations are going to happen. So that's pretty expected. And I did weight train as well. I think week 1, I did 3 training days. Week
Mm.
2, I was only able to get 2 in because of something going on at my kiddo's school, I think. And then week 3, oh no, my kiddo woke up with a cough on week 2, so I couldn't go to the gym that day. And then week 3, I trained 3 times as
You
well.
got in
So
like 5 or 6 workouts over the 3 weeks.
3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8.
Yeah, that's about me, the same, because I didn't do anything the first week.
Yep.
Me, my buddy, okay, so my buddy, he got down to 14.2 as his low point, but he's up a pound today because he kind of finished like he said I had a cheat day, which I don't like the expression, but he went to Torchy's Tacos and he had a nice meal. So he kind of like finished a day ahead. He was so consistent and so disciplined. So that was the only time he deviated was the last day. And so now he's like 13.2, but some of that's just going to be water retention from salt. So let's just say he lost he lost about 13 and a half pounds in the 3 weeks. He did not train. He did
Yeah.
not train. So, we're basically 10 and a half to 13 and a half pounds between the 3 of us for 3 weeks with varying levels of intensity in how disciplined we were with approaching it. You and I worked out the same amount of time. We had different starting body weights, so that also impacts the amount of weight we've lost. Now, what I find interesting is I've been eating more carbs than you,
Mhm.
and 75 to 100 grams a day seems to be typical in the last week and a half or so. I don't think I'm going to have a lot of glycogen refill because of
Yeah.
that. Now, I mentioned yesterday I took a photo of myself. I should probably post that for people to see. I'll post it maybe. Well, anyway, I'll post it. I was looking at my muscles and they look a little flat. Like I don't see delts and stuff like that. And I needed a bit more glycogen refill for the muscles to pop. When you drop your carbs, what happens is you lose a lot of water weight because you lose a lot of stored carbohydrate in the form of glycogen in your muscles and liver. And that makes you look a little flatter. So when you bring back the carbs, you start to fill in the glycogen in your muscles and liver again. And then you start looking a little bit more, I don't know, just curvier, I guess, right? Your muscles just fill up a bit more. So that's going to happen. So that glycogen refill is coming for Tiffany. It's coming for Eric. It's coming for me. And so, but probably for you and Eric, a higher amount because your carbs have been 40 to 50 grams a day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that I actually averaged about 35 grams of carbs a day.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Okay. And I averaged 75 to about 75, maybe to 90 between the 3 weeks. But it will be interesting to see how much weight goes back up once you bring your carbs up.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe we should.
Yeah, and I'm actually I'm gonna keep tracking that as well because I want to see, am I gonna maintain the 12 pounds that I lost, or when I add the carbs back in, is it going to increase slightly due to the increased water weight or water retention, glycogen stores like you just mentioned. So it's going to be interesting to see. And I did take progress photos and I took measurements as well. So I have all of that data that I can keep comparing as I move forward. And like I mentioned, I want to keep increasing my calories. I would love to see if I can get up to 2,000 calories a day without gaining weight. I think that that's going to be my next little self experiment. And we'll see what happens, you know?
Yeah, that's the beauty of the reverse diet is it helps you figure out pretty precisely where a range of calories where you can maintain your weight. And that's just it. It should be a range because let's face it, some days you're more active than other days. So you don't want to adjust day to day. You want to adjust week to week. Because what if you're like the scale goes up and you freak out and then you really restrict and then it goes down and then, you know, you're bouncing around way too much. So our recommendation is bring out back the calories, maybe a couple hundred at a time. I don't know what your jumps are going to be, maybe 500. And then as you get close, how much?
I actually, let me see. I can tell you my numbers real fast. Let me look on here. Because I made a big jump. I was like, I'm done. I'm ready to have carbs. Yeah. I went from 45 was my goal for carbs to I'm allowing myself to jump up to 115. So that's a pretty big jump. And then I'm going from 20 on the fats to 45. I usually tend to prefer carbs more than fats anyway. So to me, that works. So I went from 820 calories to my new calories are 1,325.
Okay. So my buddy was asking for direction on this. He wants to keep losing weight. And I said, well, I would jump up between 1,500 and 1,700 calories a day right now. He'll still be below maintenance, but we don't know what his maintenance is. And he's been inactive. So, and then he wants to start lifting weights and doing a little cardio, very, very light. So, I said, you know, I would do 15 to 1,700 this week and then jump up between 2,000 and 2,200. And then just give yourself permission to enjoy 2 days over Christmas, like whether it's Christmas and Boxing Day or Christmas and New Year's, and just eat what you want and just be mindful, you know, because he still wants to lose weight. He doesn't want to jump up a whole bunch and gain a bunch of weight back. And he wants to start training. Now that he's lighter, cardio won't be so hard on him. And I noticed a difference. I had to run for an appointment. Okay. I'm 10 pounds lighter. I just ran without thinking, but it felt so different in my body to run just 10 pounds lighter. I felt much significantly better, freer, lighter, floatier, whatever than, you know, before. So I'm thinking, yeah, I think I'm going to start getting back into some cardio again, more than just walking. So
I love cardio. I love running. Running is, I don't know, it's my thing. It's a stress reliever for me. Like I like cardio because it helps relieve my stress. Like it gives me a good, because I'll go for 30, 45 minute runs, run 5-6 miles. And during that time, I don't have to think about anything else. I just have to focus on breathing. That's
Yeah.
my form of meditation, I guess.
It's very simple to do too. You just lace on some shoes and go.
Yep.
There's very little barriers to entry for that. The thing with running though, it's not pleasant if you're heavy. Your joints
No.
hurt. If you have big boobs, they hurt, they bounce. You need a really good bra to hold those girls in. It's not enjoyable,
Yeah.
but once you lose weight, ladies, if you've never been a runner or enjoyed cardio, once you lose weight, you may completely change your mind about running and higher intensity cardio. You might actually like become obsessed with it because it's a different experience when you're lighter.
Yeah. I hated running when I was overweight.
Yeah.
Hated it. I was like, why would I ever do this? Like, no.
Yeah. So maybe let's talk about why let's back up for people who don't know about this experiment we've been doing. Let's share why we started it.
Okay. So basically, this came up because we had seen some research emerge stating that is HCG what causes the appetite to be suppressed, or is there another component to that? Could it be the higher protein protocol? Could it be, the lower calories, the less urge to eat you actually have? Like, how can we test this out without, just throwing clients in there and saying, hey, test this for us? So we decided who else better to test it than ourselves. So we'll try 3 weeks and see how we're feeling, see how we're doing. And I feel like we learned some interesting things while doing that process. What do you think?
Yeah, I learned that following a very low calorie, high protein diet actually suits me more than just dropping my calories, maybe 300 or 400 or 500 a day to lose weight. I felt less hungry. And is it comparable to HCG? For sure. It is. Now, I found it harder than I did when I was on HCG I think I just wanted more starchy carbs than I did when I was on HCG. But then part of that might just be this time in my life. Maybe my mind is not as in it to win it as when I lost weight on HCG initially. I'm not too sure. What I would love to do is expand this to a small group of people who have done HCG and want to try our method without HCG and ask them, what is your hunger like compared to when you were on HCG? Is it the same? I think then we'd have some really good insight as to whether it's the diet or whether it's the HCG that prevents hunger.
Well, I think that it's also for your craving the starches. It's the
Mm.
season. It's cold. It's winter. We crave comfort foods. It's
That's
almost
true.
Christmas. We just passed Thanksgiving. It's the season for carbs, whereas summer is the season for fresh fruit and fresh salad. I think that it goes hand in hand with the season of the year that we're in,
That's true.
So
That's true. That's a very good point. I mean, because weight loss is so multi-layered. There's so many factors like how are you sleeping compared to how you were sleeping before? Because that can drive up your hunger. How is your stress compared to before? Because stress can create more emotional eating. There are so many factors at play. I do know that my hunger was so much better than when I've done a small calorie deficit. This is definitely the approach for me. Biologically, this works better.
See, and I feel like for me, this is not the approach just because I felt limited in my food choices and I'm not used to that.
Right.
I've never done a protocol where I've had to limit a complete macro group before. I've always been able to say, you know what, I can have this treat. With this program, I really couldn't have that treat. And I think that was a big deal to me. I really am looking forward to having a bowl of ice cream tonight. And I haven't wanted ice cream in so long because I was so used to having it whenever I wanted. So I think that after dinner tonight, I've got some ice cream in the fridge. It's calling my name.
Nice.
So for me, I think that the slower approach works better for me.
I love it. And we always advocate a slower approach because you get more healthy nutrients. You get it's more optimal for training, the slower approach, man, it is better, really.
Yeah. Well,
But
and with the slower approach, I felt like I had more flexibility overall because I mean, I messaged you one day and I was like, I'm frustrated. I can't think of anything to eat. I'm tired of eating the same like chicken.
yeah,
I had to get really creative. And in that moment, all I wanted to do was just have a dang beef taco, but I didn't have like the fats and stuff
right,
for it. So I
right.
ended up last minute pulling it together and creating something. So I think that for this, like you mentioned earlier, it's so important to have a good established meal plan. Even if you don't do any prep in advance, have that meal plan, have that grocery order ready to go, so that you know what you're going to be eating and so that you can kind of play around with the different tastes and textures of your food, because eventually you're going to get tired of eating the same thing and you're going to get bored of eating the same stuff. So that was a big deal for me. Like that was I think that out of the entire program, that was the most difficult thing for me was sometimes, like with how busy life is right now, I didn't have time to eat according to the plan that I had made or cook that meal. I had to think of something on the fly.
Yeah.
And
but here's the thing, Tiffany, even if people had higher macros, they still got a meal plan and think ahead, or they're going to probably go off the rails eventually.
Well, that's true. That is true. But I find it easier when I can have more of a balance, because for me, it was, how can I eat this meal while restricting these carbs and restricting these fats? Whereas with a higher, with a higher calorie protocol, I could have very easily said, I feel like having this, I can make little modifications and it'll work perfectly.
Right. Yeah. And I mean, I wasn't like, I had more of a range and higher calories, so that helped. And like, I permitted myself, I really want these stone wheat thins, I'm going to have some, I'm going to have a serving size and I'm going to track it, so maybe that made me feel less like it was restrictive, but I guess I had a little bit more flex. I give myself more flexibility than you did.
Yeah, I'm that type A person though, that I'm like, when I do something, I do it. Like I committed to this experiment. I had my couple of off days, but I really wanted to stick it through and see, what came out of it. So to me, it was really important. And that's, where we say, like, you have your different levels of tracking. You've got your level 10 tracking, you've got your level, 1 or 2 or 8 or, whatever it is. And that's okay, as long as you understand that those are the results you're going to get,
Yeah, exactly. So, so I do think though that like everyone's different. This is why there's no one size fits all diet. And for some people, a faster approach, maybe 3 weeks on, 3 weeks off, 3 weeks on, 3 weeks off would work best.
Absolutely.
Or even 2 weeks on, 2 weeks off, where you're maintaining for those 2 weeks, but you have your maintenance calories, right? So you could do the very low calorie for 2 weeks, and then you maintain your new weight for 2 weeks. And then you go and do another 2 weeks of very low calorie. And maybe after 2 or 3 rounds of that, you've reached your goal, or maybe you're just sick of it and you want to take a higher calorie, slower approach. But whatever you choose to do, we will meet you where you're at. In our coaching. That's how we are. We're not dogmatic about what approach you should take. We will tell you there are healthier approaches than others, but at the end of the day, if you can't adhere to the best diet out there and you're still at very high body fat levels, you got to find something that's going to work for you, because high body fat levels are not healthy. So, all right. So I thought maybe we could talk about, we talked about why we did this. It was 3 weeks long, and we are offering to a small group of people the opportunity to do a rapid fat loss 12-week experiment with us. I don't want to call it experiment. Experiment is over, but it would be like a pilot. And there are some conditions in order to qualify for that. We have 6 people waitlisted right now. If you are interested, then comment below on this Facebook Live. We will send you a waitlist form to fill out. It's real quick, just takes a couple minutes, and then we'll be in touch. But we do have some criteria for you to join this group, because rapid weight loss is not for everybody.
Yes.
So let's maybe talk about some of the conditions.
Yeah. So one of the biggest conditions that I want the clients to have is I want you to have experience with tracking macros. I want you to be comfortable with creating a recipe, and I want you to be comfortable with using that food scale as well. Because again, your results are going to really depend on how accurate you're able to track. And even if you do decide, you know what, I want this treat, as long as you track it and you're holding yourself accountable for it, you're going to continue to see that progress. So I think that it's really important to have that mindset of, even if I go off course, I need to still track to the best of my ability, or keep a good estimation of, what I'm eating, so that I can understand why the scale says what the scale says the next day or even the day after. So that's a really big one. And then we also want to make sure that you're healthy enough. I believe one of the big things for you, Adele, is to make sure there's no gallbladder issues.
Yes, because rapid weight loss can exacerbate gallbladder issues. I actually had my gallbladder removed, and I think it's because I experienced rapid weight loss on HCG. So I think, it's really important that you don't have any gallbladder issues, that you don't have a history of an eating disorder. And even if you don't have a history of an eating disorder, if you got to be real with yourself, if you're a person who really rebels against any kind of restriction, and this could be somebody who's even in a small calorie deficit, not even doing the rapid weight loss. If you're a person who can't track macros without going off the rails and binging, if you can't, if you hate any kind of restriction and rebel against that, and it actually leads to eating more than you normally would, don't sign up for this. You got to know yourself. Can you think of another reason, another criteria?
Yeah, if you have like 10 pounds or 5 to 10 pounds to lose, then I would say that this is probably not for you. You'd want to have a little more to lose to hit your goal. And then something else that I thought of as well is, if you have a very busy social life that always revolves around food, this might not be the program for you, because again, it's going to be really difficult to stick to that when you're constantly going out and you're constantly provided with all of these options. So if you want to be a part of this program, I would want you to be able to commit to, when you're on those 3 weeks of rapid fat loss, that you have very minimal outings for food and stuff. Or if you do have outings, that you pre-plan that in so that you are being as accountable as possible.
Yeah. It's going to be a challenge, but with 3 weeks on, 3 weeks off, maybe you can make the 3 weeks off more of a social eating situation and get some coaching and help for that.
Exactly.
I mean, I'm going to Vegas, and I was planning on doing this another round when I'm like, you know what? When I'm in Vegas, I'm not going to be doing this, because I'm going to the buffets. I'm going to be enjoying food in Vegas and nights out. So, as a birthday thing. So I'm going to just not diet those days. I've decided, right? Not a very low calorie diet anyway. It would be not enjoyable.
Yeah.
But if you do socialize a lot, like Tiffany said, then we would recommend just the New You diet program, where you're going to have higher calories, higher macros, more food flexibility. And you can work with Tiffany on, what are you going to eat when you're eating out? Because with more calories, you have a lot more freedom.
Yep. I actually have one client who's going to Disney, and I'm pretty excited for her. And she was like, I don't know how I'm going to do this. And I'm like, well, honestly, how often do you go to Disney? Do you go to Disney every day of your life, or is it just the 1 week?
Yeah.
If so, enjoy in moderation. Once you come back, once you're back on track, then we can talk about everything that happened. I was like, one thing that you can really focus on is you can, write down, well, on this day, I faced this challenge. This is what I did to overcome it. It doesn't always have to be, all or nothing. There are so many different aspects that go into long-term weight loss.
Yeah, for sure. So I was looking at my body composition data, and it looks like, and now people like, this is a false reading. It shows that out of the 10.2 pounds lost, 4.6 were muscle. It's not accurate, again, because I'm checking my body stats when I have low glycogen levels. Once carbohydrates come back and I get the glycogen refill in the muscles, my muscle mass will show higher. So I estimate I'll probably gain a couple pounds once I'm fully carved up, but my goal is not to gain more than 2 pounds back over this maintenance phase.
Yeah, mine is down 7 pounds in my muscle mass, is what it's saying.
Out of 13. So it's saying like half the weight you lost was muscle mass,
which
we know is not accurate.
Especially based on my progress photos, like my muscles in my quads are popping right now.
Yeah. So again, that's a false reading. And so sometimes I've seen this with some research, and this is, I think, the fear when people do very restricted low calorie diets, you're going to lose them a lot of muscle. But some of that research wasn't well conducted because they actually had subjects do their body composition data when they were still on very low carbs. And then they realized their errors and recanted, and new studies that are well conducted actually have them come back and do their body composition data again once they're on higher carbs, and they see that the muscle mass is not like nearly what they thought it was, the loss with what they thought it was. And just so you know, any diet out there, it doesn't matter what kind of diet, it's considered a decent diet if you lose less than 25% of your muscle mass, which sounds like a lot. Like out of a pound, that means a quarter of a pound loss would be muscle. We strive not to lose 25%. We like to see our clients lose less than that. But we also acknowledge that there is going to be some muscle tissue loss on a diet because your body will pull from fat stores and it will pull from muscle stores. It's breaking down tissue for energy. That's what happens. The more body fat you carry, the less muscle mass is lost. So that's why we say if you're going to do this rapid fat loss thing, you got to be able to lose at least 10 pounds because you will lose more muscle than somebody who had higher levels of body fat. If you're already really lean, not a great idea to do a very low calorie diet. Was that clear, Tiff?
Yeah, I think that was pretty clear.
Okay. No questions then or comments?
No. We've had a couple people pop in and off, on and off for the live, but nobody stayed on the whole time.
Okay. Well, I want to share some things that I learned about this experiment. And they're just sort of 10 things that came off the top of my head. I'm sure there's many more teachings that will occur to me over the next week. But here are some things. One, I said before, but hunger is a sign that weight loss is occurring. Okay. My hungriest days were usually followed by the biggest drop on the scale. I don't know if that's true for you, Tiffany, but I've noticed that association.
Yeah, I've kind of seen that from time to time as well. I don't know. I don't know if it was 100% true for me though, because there were some days where I felt very satiated, but the next morning the scale would drop like a pound and I'd be like, whoa, I was not expecting that.
Yeah, that's interesting. So not all the time, but maybe most of the time. Another one for me is you don't have to be in ketosis to lose weight. In fact, it made no difference for my weight loss. It was surprising. Some of my biggest drops, I was not in ketosis. So it was just random.
I didn't even track that, so I have no idea.
Exercise will spike hunger for me anyway. It felt nearly as difficult as being on HCG. But again, I was craving starchier carbs, but as you mentioned, there could be other reasons for that. Okay, so that was more psychological than physical hunger. I felt really good. I had good energy. I had good mental clarity. After the first few days, they were the worst, right? But once after like 3 or 4 days, I felt really quite good. So that was a surprise. I expect to be dragging my butt a lot more, but I actually think that I felt better than I have in a while, like in terms of my energy, and I would wake up earlier. I could function and have good output throughout the day, like more sustained output. So it was like, what's that about, you know? But
were you being more mindful about when you went to bed, or was it about the same when you would wake up earlier?
So I normally try to get to bed at 10:30, but sometimes like I was just been so busy. I was working till midnight. And then I would still wake up early, and I'm a person who needs 8 hours of sleep or can't function very well. I had a couple days where I got 6 hours and I did not function well, but then I had a couple days where I got 6 hours and I functioned well, and normally that would not happen. So I feel like overall my energy was better. So again, we talked in the last Facebook Live about how that's a survival mechanism. So then boredom, not hunger, is usually why I'd go off. Like I just was like, I got rebellious and I just wanted a taste of something else, or crackers or something that a texture, a crunch.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I get that.
First week I did 950 calories, second week 1100 when I started training 5 days a week, and then I ended up around 1150 because I got sloppy in week 3. Week 3, 3 weeks is max for me. I learned that I would not want to go beyond 3 weeks.
Yep. I feel that too, because especially like the last couple of days, knowing that the end was right there, I was like, okay, is it really going to hurt if I just end a day early? And I was like, no, I'm not doing it. I'm going to stick through.
Good
like
for you. Yeah, that rationalization starts happening. Yeah. It's amazing how we can convince ourselves with such BS, and it just sounds so good and so logical.
Yeah, I seriously went to bed last Saturday night thinking, you know what, it's the last day. I'll just weigh myself in the morning, get my photos, my measurements. It'll be fine. And then I woke up Sunday morning and I was like, no, that's crap. Like, no, one more day. I can do this. I've done it for almost 3 weeks. What is one more day, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I think I had the same thing like on Sunday where I was tempted to just like pack it in early. My buddy did. He went to Torchy's Tacos. It's like, so close to the finish line. What is the deal with that? Hey, you just like, but I'm glad I stuck with it. And I think part of sticking with it was the accountability and doing these Facebook Lives is like pressure's on to do this right.
Yeah, I'm glad I did, because then you like messaged me and I was already in bed and I was like, yeah, it's a good thing I didn't go off the rails.
Yeah. I learned I couldn't do keto. No way.
I did not.
And ladies, you do not have to kill your carbs to lose weight. Seriously, we've had people lose a lot of weight without dropping carbs so low. Yeah. I mentioned this approach suits me, and I've never been 20% body fat. You have. I would like to get to 20% body fat. I'm at 25%. So I'm going to keep, I think, I'll do another round and then I'll reevaluate. I'm not going to say I'm going to keep doing this. I'm just playing it by ear, but I'm going to do another one in January. And then I dropped like 1.5% body fat. I would like to just keep dropping, whittling away like that.
Yeah. My reading said that I dropped just over 2%.
Oh, wow.
So I was at 21.8 and I'm at 19.7 now.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
19.7. Your leanest was 17 when you had a 6-pack.
Yep. So I'm not too far away from it. That's part of the reason why I'm like, I don't know that I should do another round.
Yeah. And you know what? You have permission to change your mind too, right?
Exactly. I can always decide to do it, and then I can be a weekend and be like, nah, no.
I should have done the top 10 things that I learned as a countdown, because probably the biggest thing, and if you're listening to this, thank you. It's been a long one, I know. But probably the biggest takeaway is, man, you got to meal prep to really make this as enjoyable as possible and lose the most weight possible. You got to meal prep and track. Of course, you got to track, but meal prepping, it really helps. Make your meals interesting, satisfying, satiating, and it's going to be the difference between it being this like white knuckle hellish experience versus actually that was not bad at all.
Change up those flavors.
Yeah.
Change them up. Change up that palette a little bit.
Yeah. So I think that's it. I really enjoyed doing this with you, Tiffany.
Same.
I'm so glad we got to experience this together. We had different approaches, but we're both very happy with our results, and I think better for this experience.
I think that it was a really good experience to go through. Kudos to you guys that do this for like 12 weeks straight.
It's nuts. Yeah. Yeah. It really makes us appreciate our clients, you know. And the 12 weeks, we should just say, for the very first time, we have let clients go 12 weeks. We used to cut them off at 8 weeks tops. Some people go 3 weeks, some people go whatever they wanted, but no more than 8 weeks. And this last group of transformers, we let them go up to 12 weeks if their doctor was okay with it. And they felt good and they had energy and stuff like that. But we don't advise more than 12 weeks. Just because you need those nutrients, you know, when you're on a very low calorie diet, it's hard to get all your nutrients in. That said, I was tracking my micronutrients and I was shocked by how much I exceeded the recommended daily allowance
But I
for
think
some of those nutrients.
I think that it's very key to point out that, as you mentioned, you already eat a very well balanced diet, like not when dieting, but at maintenance and everything as well. You make vegetables a priority and you make a variety of vegetables a priority. And that's how you're going to meet those. A lot of people who come to us, that's not something that they have been accustomed to doing, you know?
Yeah.
So it's new to them.
Yeah,
so
that's true. And, you know, I will say, like, I was on 1100 calories, right? So there are people whose maintenance calories are 1200. So I certainly hope they're meeting the recommended daily allowance. Now that might seem like really low, and it is low. It's really low. But if you're 4'11" or 5'1" and you're not active, that might be all you get, you know? Yeah. Obviously, we try to push people's calories as high as possible without gaining weight. But for some people, unfortunately, 1200 calories is what they get to exist on unless they start becoming more active. Mm-hmm. Otherwise, they eat more than that and they gain weight.
Yeah, that sometimes, please don't do that. That sometimes people consume 1100, 1200 calories because they're afraid of pushing the envelope a little bit and eating more when they're really missing out, because they could be eating 200 to 300 calories more a day and they don't even realize it. So don't be afraid to challenge it a little bit as well. If you gain a little bit of weight, you know, we can always drop it back down a little bit. So I think it's really important to experiment as well.
Yeah, which is something we do in our programs for sure. Yeah. Okay, well, I think that's a wrap then. Thank you everyone for like tuning in and being interested in our experiments. And we're going to have a sign up for that. If you're interested, you can comment below, or if you want privacy, email support@adelefrisell.com, and Sarah will send you the Google form to fill out, and we will be in touch because we're going to probably kick this off probably January 10th. We got a lot going on the next couple of weeks, so we'll see. All right. Thanks, Tiffany. I've really, really enjoyed doing this with you, everybody. I hope you have a wonderful day.
Bye, guys.